So, hey guys, welcome to Appalachia's Homestead. Welcome to the channel. This is going to be a very important video for you folks out there that are homesteading and are gardening, especially if you use wood chips. We use wood chips for things such as back to Eden gardening, permaculture. You better listen to this. So if you hear some noise in the background of the video, it is actually my neighbor all the way through the woods over there who is it sounds like they have their bobcat out and they're working with what I'm about to talk about. So I'm going to give you the storyline. I need you to participate in the comments section because I'm not an expert on this, okay? I'm just bringing you, I'm the messenger. I'm just the messenger. So I have never physically seen what we saw yesterday. It was a total shock. I don't want to say it was a total shock. It's just something that you know can happen, but you don't expect to ever see it. Well, it did yesterday. Did you guys finish your dinner? Hi, Cowboy. Hi, Katniss. Hi, Scout. What are you doing? You're such a love muffin. Who wouldn't love this baby? So yesterday morning, the video I put up earlier today, I talked about how we were really busy with the neighbors yesterday. Now listen, I do have permission to make this video. I wanted to make sure that I was, I wasn't doing anything to offend a neighbor. We would never want to do anything to offend anybody in our community. That's really dumb. So listen, I got a text yesterday. No. I got a phone call yesterday. My phone didn't ring. It went to voicemail and I picked it up. And I didn't recognize the number. And it was we have new neighbors. They're not new, but they are building on a property through our woods over here, okay? So they're not exactly right up on us or anything like that. We don't even see each other. We can only hear each other really through heavy equipment or anything like that. But they are through the woods. These folks have bought the property last year. Really nice folks. I really, really like them, which is such a blessing, right? You got to have good neighbors. And so they are working their property. They are putting things in. They are going to be building their house somewhat soon, but they're getting everything in place so that they can build, right? Okay, so here's the deal. So if you are a firefighter or if you have a lot of knowledge about this, I know I have a really good friend in Texas. He was a teacher at the Great Appalachian Homesteading Conference. I have already called and spoken to him about this, so he may weigh in the comments section. Hi, Two Socks, cutie. He may weigh in on some things, I don't know, but we've talked about this in our homesteading classes that we've had at our conference in the past, about back to Eden, wood chips, fire. What? Everybody just went, yeah, wood chips, okay. Fire? Yes, I said fire. Fire. Y'all remember all that stuff? So listen, I got the message of, we've had a situation this morning, and if you can give us a call back, can you give us a call? So we have an emergency, so I called. Long story short, they have some piles of wood chips that they have had dumped from a tree service on their property because they are establishing some really nice, substantial back to Eden gardening on the property. They're trying to get things established. So they have a tree service from time to time that has come in and dumped. Some of you out there may have done the same thing, right? Okay, so this is important. Well, apparently overnight yesterday morning, I guess the smoldering really took place, and we're talking about fire, okay? Here's the problem with that. Now, again, my neighbors know that I'm going to talk about it. They gave me permission to do some filming, and they even said this was a wonderful teaching opportunity from their experience to me to you. So I have permission to talk. So we're not throwing anybody under the bus here. This is learning for everybody. Oh, here comes Ginger. Well, come up here, sister. So long story short, the fire department got called because it actually looks like one pile, but it actually morphed into 2 to 3-ish because they're piled together. And these piles, one big one, literally not only was just smoldering, from what we understand, it caught fire. So they started spraying it down. The fire department came. And of course, the advice. Now, this is where I need your help because I've actually been doing a little bit of research today, have done some phone calls, and I want to talk about this with you because the last thing anybody needs on their farm is a fire, okay? This is why I don't put supplemental lighting in my chicken coops. I don't put heat lamps and all this. That's scary, scary stuff, right? We check our hay as far as the internal temperature. Well, these are the same situations that you must do if you are working with piles of wood chips. You don't have to have a farm or a homestead. You could be living in what if you're living in a neighborhood and you want to have a nice back to Eden garden, and you have somebody come dump a big old dump truck of wood chips, which is about what you would at least need for a decent garden, and it's next up to, it's next to a fence or something, and it's next to your neighbor's tree, which could go over to their house, which could come. Do you see where I'm going with this? Honey, you just have to be seen all the time, don't you? Yes. So from what I understand, and like I said, this is where I'm leaning on your comments. So here is like the no-brainer situation of this, and this is an important conversation to have. So basically, if you have piles of wood chips coming to your house, maybe 1, 2, 3, whatever the scenario is, even if you only have one, you really don't want it to be piled all that high. See, this is where the conversation gets interesting, because depending on what website you go to or who you talk to, what's a high pile can be a couple of inches. Some people say a couple of feet. I can tell you from past experience, when we would go get wood chips ourselves at our last farm for back to Eden gardening, we would go and get it, put it in the truck, and it was like a football field. Okay, and I never knew of them having any problem. So I'm just saying, this is one of those almost, I don't want to say it's something that is just never going to happen to anybody. It's can be kind of a freak thing, but obviously it does happen. So you need to do your homework. It does make sense to me that you would want to keep it fairly low to the ground. Okay, now I know that's harder for a lot of people, because once it's dumped, you like keeping it in that big old pile because it's easier to pull off of, so that you can go put it on your garden. I think we avoided problems with this because, like I said, we would go get it, we would haul it, and as soon that day or maybe the next morning, we were immediately taking it off the truck or the trailer and putting it on the garden, okay? So we really never saw a problem with smoldering, combustion, fire, anything like that. So, but this is what I'm saying, but a lot of people dump them and they tell you to let it compost. Well, as it is literally decomposing and it starts getting hot inside these piles, that is where the smoldering and where the potential combustion can come from. That makes sense. Well, I can also tell you, we are like a lot of you out there with the drought this year, we are very, very dry, okay? We've gotten some rain here or there, but we are very, very dry. And right now, like I said, the leaves are changing. It is pure crispy critter. So here's the thing. You want to keep your piles separated. You don't want to get a dump truck, and they're all next to each other, okay? That's pretty much rule number one. You don't want them touching each other. You don't want them, which is obvious, you don't want them near your house. You want them to be like 50 feet, 30 to 50 feet away from your barn, from tree, from potential, anything else that can catch on fire, especially a house, a barn, outbuilding, anything like that. So there is that. So that may also have something to do with where you would have it placed. Placement is very important. Unfortunately, my neighbor, because of how they've, they're setting things up. They had these piles, or the tree, the tree service on its own would come and just put it somewhere. They'd say, where do you want it? Put it over there. And they would come whenever they had it. Well, so you've got these piles all together up against a massive tree line of forest. That could spell major disaster, not just for their farm, my farm, this whole area. You know how how quickly things like this can spread. So they called and they asked if they knew if, basically could we come help, because we have a tractor that they were wetting it down. There wasn't a fire at the time. They had to keep the water on it all day. And still, with us showing up later in the afternoon, it was smoldering. And I'm going to put clips in here on the video at different points. I'm not sure how I'm going to edit it, showing you as best I could. You're going to have a certain level of that because it's decomposing. But we're talking to the point of you felt like you were standing next to a wood stove. It was that impressive in terms of the heat. And basically we were able to take the piles down, and we checked the other piles. They seemed to be okay at the time. But we got the major area down, and we dispersed the wood chips for them. We said, where do you want your next garden? Because that's where we don't want to just put them out. We just don't want to, we don't want you to move them twice. So so we basically made a big, nice back to Eden garden, and I had the hoe out there, and we were working and we were watering it down. So that's another component of this, is you do not want your piles close together. It doesn't seem advisable to have them high, that's for sure. And you want to keep them wet. Obviously the problem is it just got so dry, and it's so dry. So we were constantly using water. So here's another point with this, in my opinion. If you're gonna have a wood pile somewhere like that, you better make sure at a moment's notice you can get a hose to it, okay? Because you're going to need to wet it down. Luckily, here's the only bright side to this. Luckily, last night we were able to we worked for several hours, and we were we moved it, got it all out, and we were wetting it the whole time. The temperatures came down, because they were checking the temperature, got it in a safe spot. They left the sprinkler on everything. And then at about 10 o'clock last night, we got a lot of rain, and it rained for several hours. That's why we have this massive cool down here. We have this massive cool down. It's really brought in this little cool front. So that's good. So they're working on that, and I told them that if they needed more help, we'll be there in lickety split. And I even said, leave the gate open, I can check it, we can come over, we will do whatever we need to do to make sure that you're safe, this is safe, we're safe, the community is safe. So there's a lot to learn from this. Anything that you can add to this conversation, please do. Like I said, those of you that are, I always really like to talk to folks that are basically like firefighters, and I've got to have somebody out there that is an expert in this field. Several of you out there, I know that you're going to comment and continue to spread information. But this is what I have been able to dig up today, no pun intended, and I want you guys safe. Like I said, the first thing that I thought of this afternoon when I decided to sit down and do some research on this was, what if you lived in a neighborhood? Because I know a lot of you all out there live in a neighborhood, and there's nothing wrong with that. Living in a neighborhood, and you may have, somebody might come and deliver wood chips, and maybe they back it in through your back fence, and like I said, dump it right there. And maybe you've got a wooded area, and it sits there, and you're thinking right now, since it's fall, right, late summer, early fall, you're going to let it sit, and maybe it will, but maybe it's also really warm and really dry. And I can't imagine you would need this type of stress in your life right now. It was a little stressful. Hope you're safe. I hope you're doing well. Look forward to your comments and to your help to each other here in this community. This is another important lesson of how we can quickly be in distress, and how quickly and how important it is that we work together with our neighbors, and that we are able to communicate with each other quickly so that we can help each other to avoid a disaster, because that's exactly what it could have turned into very quickly. So they're doing their due diligence over there. We'll keep you posted if anything else evolves. I think they were handling it, guys, but hope you're doing well. Like, subscribe, and share. And as always, we appreciate you being here. We'll see you on the next video. Let's go. Come on. Time to go back to the barn. Brother, keep going.